You're listening to the Microsoft Innovation Podcast, where we explore the intersection of people, business, and technology. This year, we're adding a new show to our lineup, The AI Advantage, to help you learn the skills you need to thrive in the AI era.
Welcome to the MVP Show. My intention is that you listen to the stories of these MVP guests and are inspired to become an MVP and bring value to the world through your skills. If you have not checked it out already, I do a YouTube series called How to Become an MVP. The link is in the show notes. With that, let's get on with the show. Let's kick things off with a fresh voice from the heart of Copenhagen, where AI meets real-world impact in the Microsoft ecosystem. Today's guest is someone who is not just riding the AI wave, he's helping shape the surfboard. Please welcome Erik, Chief AI Officer at Delegate. Erik empowers businesses to harness AI-driven insights for transformative growth and innovation. He's the architect behind the Delegate's 3-day AI workshop, which we're going to talk about, a hands-on sprint that takes companies from we should do AI to here's a product-ready solution. So many companies are struggling with this at the moment. And when he's not guiding enterprises through the maze of generative AI, he's championing responsible AI practices across the Nordic tech scene. Fun fact, before leading this charge in AI, he's been working in the LLM space for years, in this language space. So with that, Erik, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
I'm excited to have you on because going through your brief and bio and what I do in my world is there's a lot of similarities. And so I'm excited to share notes and understand your journey in this space and what you're seeing, out in the market with customers. But before we go there, tell us about this workshop, this 3-day workshop that you run, and how did you come about creating it?
Sure. So I'm doing it right now with 2 customers actually, but it really just came about because it was an apparent need in the market. So a lot of companies were struggling to go from the very first intuition of we should probably also do something with AI, but what exactly should that be? And then to actually getting started in practice. And what is needed is sort of a roadmap and a use case catalog. So that's really the end goal of these 3 AI ideation workshop days, is that we talk to the business and map out all the use cases. Then we try to evaluate them in different ways. I'll get into some more details, but just the main shape of it is then we try to qualify them. And we also present them with a candidate architecture and our suggestions for which of the use cases should they start with. And that sounds quite simple, and it's not. So I've done this for a long time now, and I've had a lot of learnings. And one of the major learnings were that you really need to respect that the participants know a lot more about their business than you do. You're sort of an outsider, and it's actually more realistic to educate them in the major trends and especially what's possible within AI, and that's machine learning and generative AI, also understood as large language models. That's much more viable than you being an expert in their business at their level. But really, it's sort of a joining of the two. So we need to learn about their business, and they need to learn about AI. So the ideation workshops usually start with, and it's often me. I love to educate and be the teacher in the classroom. I start by teaching them everything I can about AI, and I've been doing a lot of that inside and outside of ideation workshops. Also, just doing master classes, and I just did up the numbers. I looked at the numbers recently, and I could see with the last 18 months I've talked to a little more than 5,000 people, a little more than 120 boards, organization, companies, also the government institutions, and so on. And when they learn about AI, then they're ready to have this commonality in terms of language. So we're talking about the same things, and we mean the same things when we say these words. And then we start talking about, well, if that's what's possible with AI, what's possible for us? And looking at where they want to go. And a really important point is here that we don't go data first, and we don't go technology first. So data first is the common mistake, that you say we have this data, and that means that these are the things that are possible, which is a terrible way to go about it. That's sort of the data that you coincidentally have. That's what's going to shape your future. Why not sort of take charge of your future and say, this is where we want to go? And that means that all our AI ambitions actually amount to us having to invest in data and invest in a data strategy and so on. And the larger companies are, the easier it is for them to grasp this, but it's a problem for everyone, especially because sometimes AI is seen as something where you can sort of do a small investment and get a lot back very, very fast. And that's contradictory to this idea of investing in data to really have a strong baseline for your future innovation potential. Now, the other part of it that makes it difficult, besides sort of going against the data first, is the technology first impulse, where just tell us what tech we should use, and then we'll figure it out. A really good example of this is that people are really confused about whether they should just use ChatGPT or maybe just this version of Copilot, or should I invest in starting to use Databricks and Azure AI services when is needed, when. And really, we don't talk about that until we're completely done sort of looking at other barriers, like what are the organizational barriers, what are the cultural barriers, what are the barriers in terms of that the users are not willing to adopt the solutions because they're worried about some future scenario that hasn't been addressed. Will I be replaced by AI, or will my job become uninteresting because of AI, and so on? Once everything is addressed, then we, as AI experts, look at, well, you should probably start with Copilot for this use case. It'll make sure that everyone is on board. It has a very low entry barrier, and it'll show everyone, oh, AI is not so dangerous, and we'll sort of convert the culture of the company towards AI, and then start investing in data. And then along the road, some of this data may be relevant for more enterprise level solution, which might be in Asia, AI services, and so on. And that's how the whole journey works, with a start in the AI ideation workshops.
How are people finding you? As in, it's a phenomenal amount of presentations and people you've addressed. Are people, are companies scrambling to get their AI strategy sorted out and get into the AI game, so to speak, for their business? Is that how you're finding these people?
That's sort of a two-sided question, because my immediate answer is people doing great at adopting AI. So last year it was all about learning about AI and using it for personal efficiency. This year it's all about, let's get started building things into processes. Let's make our first RAG architecture, retrieval augmented generation. For those not initiated, that means simply that the large language model can answer questions based on your own knowledge base, which is typically a collection of documents. And then that's sort of it. Really, I think this is sort of not, for most, not ambitious enough, not sort of self-reinventing enough. And I think it's because AI has been sort of overhyped for a long time. And now the I wouldn't say violent, but the really extreme transformation that generative AI presents for everyone is overlooked and underestimated. So I think everyone is doing something, but very few are taking it seriously in a way that probably would be best in their own interest.
Yeah. Interesting. In the workshops, are you using a design thinking type process to get the engagement with folks?
Yes, that is sort of working behind the scenes. But what we found was that the more we sort of put these activities into frameworks and papers and schedules, and you have to fill out this field and sit in groups and so on, the less creative and thinking outside the box people become. So really you have to master a huge degree of fluency in the room, and you are, as the consultant, they are consultant, the one who's responsible for fitting everything together. A major learning has also been that, and I'm very harsh, I'm very direct about this when I'm talking to companies, that they ask me who should be in the workshops, and I say, if there's anyone from upper management, it should be one, max two people, no more than that. Middle management, I don't want to see a single middle management person at the workshop. I might offend some people, but it's my responsibility to get results. And what I really need in the workshops are people who are at ground level doing the actual work. They are the ones who will see, oh, if I could do this faster, then this would be really beneficial, and so on. Because AI value is AI in practice, and not sort of these ethereal constructions that are easy to market and hard to implement.
I like it. I like the stance that you take on data. It's very interesting, and it is.
I have another one of those. I have a pet peeve that I want to kill the step ladder, the step. Did you hear about that? First you are digital, so you don't have stuff on paper. it's digital somehow. That's the first step. Then then you're ready for the next step. Just like being promoted or completing levels in a computer game, right? The next step is you can do some reporting, and once you achieve that, you're ready for the next step, which is sort of doing some predictive analytics, and then the next step is machine learning and really complex generative AI and so on. And I hate that model because it'll sort of prevent people from being timely in their innovation needs. Because the thought process is then, AI, we're not thinking about AI, we're only at the reporting level. And I'm saying to people, the moment you should be thinking about AI is the moment that you are moving from paper to digital, or even before. I mean, it's so dependent on data, also with generative AI, which is overlooked. And the moment you are starting to collect or not collect data, which is be a very conscious decision in your business, then you should have some AI expert asking you what are your future goals in a 3-day workshop or whatever, and what requirements in terms of a data collection strategy should be part of that. And it's made even more complex with the coming EU AI Act here in Denmark, which is part of the EU.
So let's talk about that, the EU AI Act, because it's going to affect a lot more than the EU. There's the specific clauses in there that really affect any country that have EU citizens traversing through them. That might be using an AI in any form. So I think it's more wide-reaching. How are you looking at, when you're consulting with your customers, the application of the EU AI Act in their readiness? Because from a couple of levels, one, there's obviously quite clear about what's allowed and what's not, but also there's a massive requirement to educate your staff on AI as part of the EU AI Act. In other words, you've got to bring their AI literacy up, and have got to be able to show that you're doing that over time. How are you working that into what you're doing with customers?
So, of course, just being a trusted advisor in any field requires that they feel the customer feel they can trust you to sort of keep their interests at heart. Also, not just selling them something that would be illegal in 1 year. So I think you're obligated as a someone who provides IT solutions to be part of that understanding. So personally, I'm very involved with the EU AI Act. Delegate was one of the first primary stakeholders on the official assessment list that later became the EU AI Act. So we tested early versions of it on our AI projects and gave feedback to help shape it. And I'm also personally a member of the European EU AI Alliance, and also helping Danish politicians sort of catch this in the right way, participating in different it's called follow groups. I'm not sure what the English word is. It's sort of advisory boards or groups with experts sort of helping the government steer the right path through this. And I also took the EU AI Act education that lawyers have to take to be proficient in the EU AI Act. So I have a lot to say about it, and I want to start by correcting you somewhat, if that's all right. And that is, yes, everyone's affected by the EU AI Act, but it applies in the EU. So if you are a country whose customers are outside the EU, you're not directly affected by it. It applies to all users within the EU. So I heard someone say, I'm going to move my shop to China. It's too difficult to sort of deal with that. And I said, well, aren't your users still in Europe? And they said, yes. Well, that's not going to help you. It's where it's used that it applies, right? Then there's the article concerning education, and that it's sort of you're obligated to educate anyone who uses and also works with sort of delivering AI solutions. And there's the official stance that you have to do this. I also sort of educated all of Delegate in several times, actually, just in rooms of 12. So it took some time to get through everyone, but that was an investment. It was not to comply with the EU AI Act. The way the act is set up right now is that it's not really matured, so they aren't great at saying what's required exactly. So really, you could get away with interpreting it any way you want and say, "Oh, I thought you meant I just had to sort of send a YouTube video to everyone, and then I was done." And then you can't actually be fined or get in trouble. Then they'll have to say, once they get their stuff together, well, that's not enough. You have to do something more. And then they have to tell you what that is. And then you do it. So it's really nothing to worry about at this stage, unless you do absolutely nothing and you have no documentation of doing anything at all.
Yes. Yeah. Interesting. You mentioned lawyers there, the training that lawyers need to take. Are you seeing the legal profession start to develop AI practices? So in other words, part of their, they might have a practice that does different types of legal work, but are you seeing them now starting to go, you know what, we see an opportunity to set up as a dedicated AI legal practice within their businesses?
Right. So there are two sides to that. The first is, to what end and to what degree can legal help sort of get us compliant with the EU AI Act? And in that regard, that was said to this room of lawyers, where I felt like I was sort of a spy almost with technical knowledge, but because I'm not a lawyer at all to any extent. But what they said was, well, unlike GDPR, you can't sort of handle this yourself as a lawyer. You will need to sort of cooperate with technical people to understand whether you're compliant or not. Unlike GDPR, this has to be sort of cooperation between AI technical people and legal experts. So that's a very huge difference from GDPR, which is also a big thing in the EU. Then there's, what does it mean to be within the legal field with everything that's going on with AI? And I think it's a huge deal whether you have the data. Do you have all the case material? Is it publicly available, or do you have case material that others don't have? And that can be turned into a business. So if I'm a legal office and I'm an expert in certain kinds of cases, I'll have a lot of history on that, and I can use that to set up an architecture where I can easily draft cases, so I'll be much more efficient. And the future will be that the legal officers that have all the data will transform themselves into a service that people can apply for. And saying now you can talk to our legal bot, which has access to all the relevant data, so it can draft cases that are relevant and compliant. And we will also sort of help sort of reading through the last part. And in terms of the UAA Act, we will take personal responsibility. This has to be someone saying this goes. So they're also being transformed quite intensely.
Tell me about the ISO 42001, which is the act or the ISO IEC regulation on AI management systems. Have you looked at that and the implication of those? I see companies now starting to pay a bit more attention to it.
Not as much as the EU AI Act, and that's because it seems like this more technical standard is more relevant to the CTO. So I am trying to grasp everything, but I think it's so important to say I'm not an expert in that. But as soon as the first customer says, "Well, how's that relate to what we just worked on?" Yeah, I'll look more into it. Yeah.
So interesting talking to you, Erik. Hopefully, I get to meet you in person sometime in the near future. On the MVP side of things, what do you do?
A lot. I don't know where to start. So of course I'm active in the Asia community. I went to Sweden recently because they felt they didn't have sort of they have limited experts on large language models. So I did research in large language models 15 years before ChatGPT came about. So I've been working with that for a long time. So that's why I got the expert status. How are you an expert in a new technology and that no one just didn't know before it happened? Well, I actually in my research I predicted what we're seeing with large language models like 19 years ago, before deep learning and transformers were even invented. So I'm proud of that. Yeah, it's available at my website if anyone wants to read my research. You can be among the first 5 to ever read it. Yeah, I'm participating in the Asia community just as a large language model expert, and also, of course, following very intensely what are the features in the Asia AI services domain and how can they be used in different ways. And personally, I'm really interested in code interpreter and what that means for use cases and applications of AI, and of course the agentic aspect as well. Then I also have a column in Denmark's biggest computer magazine called Computer World. So it's a fixed column. So it's the online and printed version where every month there's a new article from me about some topic relating to Asia AI and large language models and Copilot and so on. And then, of course, I'm out talking to a lot of people all the time. A lot of it is actually paid, so it doesn't really support my MVP status. but also some unpaid stuff which I do myself in my free time. I'm also a mentor for AI mentees, and what else? Helping the government sort of do this right. Very instrumental in the IT industry's new tech policy board, which gives recommendations to the government, and also taking responsibility of should Denmark have a national large language model. So was a big part of drafting that legislation, and also doing policy briefs right now, sort of overcoming the legislative part of can we get the Danish data and put it into large language models and so on. Sometimes a politician sort of texts me and I'm like, how did you get my number? And they say, can you help me draft something or explain something, right? That's so cool. Yeah, I'm very lucky.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Sure. A pleasure.
Hey, thanks for listening. I'm your host, Business Application MVP Mark Smith, otherwise known as the NZ365 Guy. If you like the show and want to be a supporter, check out buymeacoffee.com/NZ365 Guy. Thanks again, and see you next time.
Are you ready to accelerate your career in the Microsoft ecosystem? The 90-Day Mentoring Challenge, created by Mark Smith, is your opportunity to create a personalized pathway to success. Join over 1,200 alumni from more than 70 countries who have achieved remarkable results, from promotions to new job opportunities. Take it from Nathan, who said, "Since completing the 90-Day Mentoring Challenge, I've become an MVP in business applications and doubled my income." Or from Parvez, who shares, "I've never felt as inspired or energized about my career as I do now." Sign up at arcor.nz365guide.com. You can find the link in the show notes. And if you use the code podcast, you'll get 10% off.